This episode of Access to the Arts is being made possible through the support of First Bank Richmond, with 8 locations serving Wayne County. First Bank Richmond and you, doing great things together.
I mean, we couldn't do what we do without First Bank, and how supportive they have been throughout the years.
I've had a very good experience working with First Bank. They have been there really with all kinds of different things that I do in my life.
We consider First Bank Richmond a good friend. They're there to help us sponsor our signature events. You always are out there to help each other out.
Besides the business part of it, we just get along really well. And it's beyond a working relationship.
Access to the Arts. I'm joined now by George Stallings, and we're here to talk about the Richmond Symphony Orchestra Music Garden. And George, I've been trapped inside for over a year, so I'm sure a lot of viewers also have been trapped inside for a long time, so they need a little reintroduction to what the RSO Music Garden is. Could you do that for us?
Okay, it's a collaboration between Glenn Miller Park and Richmond Symphony Orchestra to bring some music to the kids playing in the park. We have from the playground, there's a music keyboard pathway down to the 3 pieces that I made for the Glenn Miller. One is called a Rainmaker. It's 5 different size threaded rods with washers on them, 4 foot tall, half a dozen washers. Children bring the washers up the rod, let them go, and the heavier rods go ding-a-ling-ling, and the thinner ones ding-a-ling, different tones. It just gives you a different sound for each one of the things, and there's 15 of them around a circle on that. The other piece was a actual note in a form of a note with a tail on it. The tail has 7 different gongs formed by a friend of mine. You got a rod up through them, and the kids can, with a mallet attached to it, and they can hit each one of them. We'll give them a different sound on there, ding, ding, right on down the line. With the rod, it's expanded copper with washers, rubber washers, to keep the harmonics separated, so one doesn't interfere with the other. The third piece I made was a large double note, 65 inches wide, with a dozen hubcaps on it from vehicles, Mercedes, Chevys, Plymouths, Chrysler, Ford, you name it. They're all different hubcaps on there, spaced out so that they would fit in this grid, suspended by heavy-duty zip ties, which would keep the metallic flavor from each one of the hubcaps would be separate. The Mercedes had some very rich sound on the Mercedes hubcaps.
Please tell me that you went to many auto junkyards to try to find the right tones, that you just walked around and tinged a bunch of hubcaps.
Actually, I went to Salisbury Auto. They had a flatbed stake truck out there, probably 15 foot long, 8 foot wide, full of hubcaps.
Yeah, wow.
I went through those with a stick. Bong, bong. Oh, that sounds good. So anyway, that's where we collected the hubcaps, painted them all black, attached them, had a gong on each end, and the children come, and each one of them some of them had a little rattly sound, some of them actually, but there's probably 8-10 different sounds out of those dozen hubcaps that you could get. Of course, the hubcaps are thinner metal, and they took a serious beating.
Right. Right.
And they were just about totally inverted by the end of the summer and this spring.
Yeah.
So Monica and Denise decided they wanted to redo that piece, and right now I have farm disc, which are considerably heavier, thicker. Some of them are up to an 1/8 inch thick, and they actually
Like the blades on a disc?
like the blades on a disc.
Okay.
They actually have some serious
They're built to take it.
harmonic sound to them too. And this is going to sound so much better.
Okay.
Hopefully I'll have those. I've got them all laid out and hanging, got them painted. Got to do a little more final touches before I can hang those on that piece. And it will be like a totally different piece with the new mallets and everything on there, and the neighbors may be able to hear them outside the park.
You keep mentioning kids, and I'm going to put myself into that because I love interactive. I mean, look, I'm going to say
Yes.
I'm a kid at heart.
Yes,
but,
me too.
But in terms of the idea process, how do those pieces come to you? Are you thinking harmonically? Are you thinking in terms of the music that it will produce?
Aesthetics, harmonics, everything.
Yeah.
Looks like there's two of the discs on this new piece are not all that awesome, but they're real wavy, and they're the aesthetics add to the piece itself. And but if the sound, if it doesn't have some decent sound to it, I try to stay away from it, and just try to working on the sound and then put it together. When Monica said, hey, it's a music garden, she showed me a couple samples of a straight stick with the different size gongs on them. It's the music garden. Hey, let's build a note out of heavy steel. On the tail of the note, that's where the gongs are.
Yeah.
And I try to add some little more musical flavor to it from that aspect.
George Stalling, thank you very much for
right.
joining us. I love getting kind of some insight on how those pieces come together, and looking forward to seeing them and playing them.
Thank you very much. And hey, you be the kid.
All right, absolutely.
All right.
We'll be back with more in just a bit. We're back at Access to the Arts. I'm Dave Paxton, joined now by Pam Frazier. Pam, graphic designer, a huge contributor to many things here in the area. And thank you for joining us today. We're talking a little bit today about your involvement in some of the things going on through the Parks Department and through Glen Miller Park.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about some of the things that you've been involved in.
Well, I recently completed a music path is what we called it. It goes from the playground to the music garden that was put in probably in 2018. So Denise approached me in 2019. So my idea was to put things on that path that inspire people to write or listen or enjoy music, and also link it into what the nature of the park is. So there's frogs and birds and clouds and leaves, things that would inspire people musically.
So as you started to put the concept into an actual plan and put it out, how did you think in terms of linking all those things together? Certainly some of the natural sounds, but finding the artists, finding the contributors that would help you put together an interactive path.
Well, to me, the contributors are just musicians, and you know, Richmond has a very rich music history, of course, so that inspires me, but also just the nature and the green space also inspire me. So what I started to do was I did one small sketch, and a lot of times I don't like to plan too much because it stops me in my tracks. So I did one small sketch and then would do that, and then I would go home that night, sketch some more, and keep going. But I wanted to have a real free flow to it, something that wasn't always expected.
And it's also a case where as you plan something and then get out to where it's actually going to be put together, plans can change because inspiration can hit in a lot of different ways.
But that's exactly right. And the space is so long that it was really kind of impossible to get all the planning on one page. So it helped me just to keep going, because as you're going on that and you see how much you have to do, it can be really daunting. So it helped me to do it in in sections, I guess. Yeah.
So now you finished it. It got some good use. It had to be fulfilling to see not only people out enjoying it, but particularly kids discovering music or discovering sounds and things that they hadn't done before, and being able to actually produce those.
Well, that's exactly right. Even as I was painting, kids and their families would come by, and that really made me happy. Really, it makes you feel like you're really doing something that is kind of expanding that space to be more than a parking lot or more than a blacktop path. So.
And I know that pieces are still being produced and changes that are constantly made. Do you always then look at it and go, okay, here's what we can do to add a little bit more to it?
But yeah, I mean, I think that the way it's done, that I didn't like fill up every inch of space. But yes, there's always opportunity to add more, even in the crosswalk where I really just kind of did a keyboard over a keyboard. There's plenty of space to add more work as the years go on, I think.
Yeah. In having experienced it and then being out to see it as more and more people walk that path, it's kind of a musical journey. It's kind of a journey of learning how sounds get produced, how music can be put together, and hopefully maybe inspiring some future musicians.
Well, yeah, and I think the idea behind it is to get people interested and kids interested to go follow that and then make their own sounds and music at the music garden that George created.
But don't sell yourself short. It's also your artwork and your design that maybe inspires some designers, some graphic designers.
Well, yes, I did have a couple
some
kids
artists in that way.
Yes, you do hope that, because I know a lot of young artists here in town through working with RCT's Stage 1, very talented artists, and I think that any inspiration you get for young kids, even if you don't make art a career, is important.
It's something that can be done despite with a career running a different path. It's something that's not, I don't want to use the word hobby, but it's a passion that many people can have for their entire lives.
Oh yes, definitely.
Yeah. Pam Fraser, thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you very much.
All right, we'll be back with more in just a bit. We're here on Access to the Arts. I'm Dave Paxton, joined now by Denise Retz, Park Superintendent, Richmond Parks and Recreation Department. First of all, and I know we'll talk a little bit about the arts and your involvement and the park's integral involvement in the arts, but I just want to say first how keep doing the good work, how important it is, the green spaces that we have, the access that the Richmond Parks Department works really hard to maintain for the public, because that's so, especially now, so very important. All the great areas. Talk, the work that you do to maintain and to expand and to better the community.
Absolutely. I mean, during COVID, we saw our spaces being utilized more than ever. We feel like
there's a lot of social distancing spaces there.
We do. With 1,100 acres, there's plenty of room to social distance, and we saw that happen. Our team really put in the extra effort to continue to pick up trash, keep everything prim and proper for the community, and we are very thankful that the community chose our spaces to be in at a very regular time frame.
Yeah, and
we're very happy about that.
Yeah, using some of those spaces for performances, for if you couldn't have things happening indoors, and so a big part of last summer, the success or anything was because you could still hold things outdoors.
Yes, dance studios were using the band shell. We saw a lot of outdoor venues being utilized more regularly than not. So we were glad to be a part of that, and we were happy to help.
Your partnership with Richmond Symphony Orchestra, the musical pathway that you have, which is really nice. Let's talk a little bit about how that came about and how that's going.
So Monica Koschlein from Richmond Symphony Orchestra, there was City Arts that we had worked on together, and this was a really great festival that we had worked on, and a piece a musical piece had been kind of collaborated each and every year with this particular festival. And so we had decided that, you know what, this musical piece that was created, we should really have a music garden out of this. So her and I had discussed this, and we decided that maybe a music garden would be something that we could create for the community as a lasting legacy. So Monica got with George, as you had talked with him, and Jack, and we had talked about maybe making some additional pieces and creating the Richmond Symphony, music garden. And so that became it is used daily, and the sounds that come from that music garden are just amazing. And these are all just ordinary items made into beautiful instruments, and that's really exciting. So the music garden is wonderful. It's located right around Glen Miller Pond, right around Shelter 10, and it's its own garden. Well, we wanted to have a special pathway to bring kids from the actual playground and bring them down to the music garden. So we were kind of contemplating how that would happen, and we had talked about a crosswalk that would be something that would be safe to get the kids across. We did a piano crosswalk there, and then talked a little bit about how we could bring more art into the parks. And we worked towards a grant that we could maybe look at to try to bring more art into some parks in the downtown area. A grant came available called the QUIP grant through OCRA, which is Office of Community and Rural Affairs. This grant for $5,000 came available, and we had some other community partners that wanted to be a part of this grant and see art everywhere in our community. Wayne County, or the Wayne Township trustee, as well as the Urban Enterprise Association came along, and we were able to do some additional art pieces. One that Pam did, the music pathway, the actual wood carving outside of the office, or just to name a few.
Putting art in the park, in green spaces, in areas that are easily and often accessible to the public, that really kind of puts it there in front of you so you can experience it, and you don't realize how important that is in people's lives.
Absolutely, and I think the most exciting part is when the art is being done in front of them and they crowd around and they watch the art being produced. I think that's the most exciting time. I've watched as senior pictures of being taken on top of Pam's art. I've watched as people come by and take pictures of her art and of her doing the art. Those are just samples of what's happening. Videos of the tree carving being done. These are things that people that inspire people, and things they don't get to partake in every single day. So these are exciting things, and it's really great that they can experience these in our parks.
Denise Retz from the Parks Department, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll be back with more in just a bit.
Welcome back to Access to the Arts on WETV Channel 20. Obviously, I'm not Dave. I just kind of bogarted my way in. It was a nice sunny day. I heard we were going to have a chance to talk to John Cook, Civic Hall Performing Arts Center. I'm on the board. I had to come talk to my man. It worked out really well. John, how are you?
I'm great. It's a nice day.
It is a very
really
nice day.
Yeah.
A couple of things I want to talk to you about, but first of all, we're sitting on this nice bench dedicated to Randy Ecker, former choir director. Talk about this, and there's actually 3 other benches that have been placed out here.
So this was one of the Civic Hall Associates projects that we started during the 2019-2020 season. And
I remember it well.
Yeah, they wanted to see if we could put some things out here on what we called the patio area. And the benches were the idea, and it flew pretty well for us. So we had sponsorship opportunities, and one of the sponsors, as you can see, was the chamber choir for Randy Ecker, who just retired at the end of that school year. He's actually going to be one of our house managers this year.
Really?
Yeah, for the upcoming season, he's going to help us out because we're, trying to open it up a little bit more, see if we can get some more people involved. And he said he'd be happy to be a house manager for some of the shows that we have coming in.
Nice.
So yeah, and then the other two benches, the one to my right and then the one straight across on the other side of the patio, those were dedicated by Tim Scales, another one of our board members. One is to the Indiana University East students that graduated at the end of the 2020 school year. And then the other was to the senior class of the Richmond High School for 2020. It was kind of appropriate considering it was the end of, or the beginning, I guess, end of the school year, but the beginning of the COVID epidemic, and kids weren't in classes anymore, and he wanted to do something to kind of recognize those kids, and that's why it ended up being those dedications. So I think it's really nice. Plus the benches are really, really attractive, and people have been using them already. It's kind of a nice place to come out and hang, in the shade or whatever. So yeah, it's cool.
Civic Hall Performing Arts Center is a place where we have seen some incredible talent come in.
Oh, yeah.
We've recorded in your area where there's posters through the years from some of the performers that have been in.
Yeah.
You got caught last year, like a lot of the arts organizations, not able to open up, not able to do your work. Talk about kind of what this last 18 months or so has been like here at Civic Hall.
It's been a lot of flexible maneuvering, I guess. We were initially trying to reschedule and making arrangements to reschedule the acts and the performances that were coming in the event that we were going to be able to open up at the beginning of 2020 in January, February, March, whatever. So we did some rescheduling there. So we were communicating, sending out letters to season ticket holders and interested people just to make sure that they were up to speed on what we were doing. And then those dates kind of fell through the cracks or ended up not happening. So then we rescheduled a couple of other times. So we've done roughly, I think, 4 schedule changes at least since the end of 2020, where we've sent out dates, published dates, and then ended up saying, okay, we can't do this, so we're going to push it further down the road. So what we have coming up are shows that were supposed to have happened in 2020, 2021, plus a show from 2019 to 2020.
Wow.
So there's still people that we'd contracted, obviously, from those years or those series. But they're going to be performing with us for 21, 22.
The first of those is coming up early October. Emmett Cahill.
Can't wait. Emmett Cahill and the Emerald Strings. That's his accompanying ensemble. Plus he has a piano accompanist that is like his music director that travels with him. He's an amazing singer. He's a tenor from Ireland. For people that are in Richmond, they might have heard of Celtic Thunder, which was it was kind of a throw off of the Irish dancing that began in the 1990s, late 80s, 1990s. It was a big deal. Then these guys are from Irish background, and so they are all Irish singers. And then there's also some dancing. But so he'll be doing selections from Broadway that he sings a lot of Broadway tunes. You can find some of his work on YouTube. You could search Emmett Cahill, but his voice is it's like silk. I mean, it's amazing. I've heard him live with just a piano accompanist in a small room, and he gave me goosebumps. The guy's incredible. I mean, he's just got an incredible voice. I know that everybody that's going to be here will be really, really impressed with him.
the following week, is
Yeah,
it?
the very
1
next
week later.
Saturday.
You don't normally run them that close,
do
but
not.
you're just backing them up.
That's right.
You've got Winona and the Big Noise.
The Big Noise, yeah. Winona Judd is going to be here. She just went into the Country Hall of Fame, and her voice is another one of those iconic sounds that if you're familiar with her, you know what I'm talking about. If you're not, you need to hear her. Even if you're not a country fan necessarily, someone that says, oh, I like country music,
Right.
her voice is worth hearing. My wife is not really a big country fan at all, but she loves that type of sound in a female voice, and she's just amazing. So you should.
She's been doing it for years.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Man.
She was with her mother and her sister for a while, but then it was just her and her mother.
Right.
They were the Judds, and now it's Winona and the Big Noise, so they're out on tour, and they'll be here on the 9th.
The act that you talked about that was 1920 that's coming in.
Yeah.
Talk about that real quick.
They're pretty interesting and also an amazing group. Of course, I guess I'm partial to all the shows that come in, so I'm going to say they're all amazing.
Of course you are.
I believe they are. These are brothers and sisters that all play piano. They're Juilliard School of Music trained. They were all at the Juilliard School of Music at the same time, which is historic. It's never happened before, where they've had 5 siblings, for that matter, all scholarship at Juilliard that were there at the same time. What they do is play grand pianos, Steinway grand pianos. They take concert orchestrations and put it to piano, and each of the individuals plays different parts of the orchestra, and then so you're hearing potentially what you would hear a symphony play through keyboard, and they do some pop, also things that are more current, like they're famous for doing some Star Wars things. They do the planets, which is Holst planets. They do Copland, which is some of my favorite stuff. I really like Aaron Copland. They also do some Gershwin, which I'm assuming everybody that's even an American knows some of Gershwin's music, whether you've heard it in commercials or you've actually listened to it. So
we've got about 45 seconds left to go. What do patrons know? There are tickets. They can still
There
get
are
those?
tickets. You can get tickets still for individual shows. You just call the box office, 765-973-3350, or come in, or you can email us at jcook@rcs.k12.in.us.
What are the masking rules for shows?
The only thing we ask is that everybody is masked when they are in for the performance.
John, thanks for letting us come by and hang out.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
This episode of Access to the Arts is being made possible through the support of First Bank Richmond, with 8 locations serving Wayne County. First Bank Richmond and you, doing great things together.